Hey there, and welcome to another video in my DIY competitive series where I show you and your company um, the processes that I have used in my decade plus of performing competitive intelligence for some of the largest, most successful companies in the US, including, Dell, Zillow, TripAdvisor, and many more. My name is Finbarr. I run Finbarr.co, which is a competitive intelligence as a service business. Um, our customers are usually anywhere from seven figures in revenue and above across industries. These processes that I do are basically um, very broad and can be kind of niche down industry by industry, but they work for each industry. These steps and these videos that I do. Today's short presentation is going to run through my process and steps for the very common business competitive topic that almost every business generating more than 1 million in revenue wants to know. Um, and that is understand how competitors' market shares have changed over the past few years. So let's go through from a high level, the crucial 10 steps to gain the deep insights that you would be hoping to achieve when you do this competitive analysis. And I promise I've done this particular one a few times for a few different companies, and these 10 steps are tried and true. So let's move on to a quick overview of the 10 steps. Okay, firstly, you have to define the market and the competitors. So you start by clearly defining your market scope, including geographic boundaries, product or service categories, industry segments. So you can list all these out in an Excel sheet where you would list, key direct and indirect competitors operating within this defined market. Secondly, you just start collecting your data, and the more data you get, you know, which makes sense, the more kind of we'll say confident you can feel in your recommendations towards the end of the research. So to collect like historical market data, one thing I've done, a few things I've done in the past is, I would obtain like industry reports from, sources such as Gartner, Nielsen, and your own industry will have particular leaders in research. So make sure you kind of look up and find those. These kind of reports often contain historical market share data. I always analyze like annual reports, different things like different financial statements of publicly traded companies. Um, a good way to kind of will say if they're not publicly traded is just you can purchase historical market data from market research firms, just to ensure that you trust the source. So just get as many points. I'm not going to go through all the sources, but like the more trustworthy data you can get at this stage, the better. So that's step two. Step three is do your own primary research. So conduct surveys or interviews with industry experts, suppliers, channel partners, any key stakeholders that would have a good knowledge of, a company trajectory or performance and stuff like that. I remember at Dell when we would be at like analyst forums and talking to partners and channel members of certain competitors and customers, and they would give you some of the best insight of like where a certain competitor was and where they were 3 or 4 years ago, and their change of attitude and stuff like that. So make sure you consult these industry analysts and experts for insights on historical market trends and competitor performance from a primary research standpoint. Also, do step forward, do detailed secondary research, I would imagine. That's what I've always done, and it's always proved kind of profitable for the overall recommendation and the confidence in delivering the final recommendations to an executive or whoever your target customer is for doing this research. So review press releases, news articles for any mentions of historical market share data, any kind of sentiment on like historical performance, and any commentary like that. So you can gather information from industry conferences, trade shows, and just kind of you'll get a greater understanding of your competitor dynamics and how they've shifted. Again, step five is, a bit repetitive, but this is where you start kind of like putting all your data together and essentially start estimating the historical market share. And this is done with, like, you can use tools, you can use all the data you've got, but you can also kind of build out your own model for that. And you can kind of extract and kind of, we'll say, keep certain data out, and just kind of give the most truest sense of the performance of this particular company in the last few years to get to answer your question of how competitors' market shares have changed over the past few years. Onto the back end of this, again, six is a bit like five. It's pretty similar in terms of, like, five is where you kind of create the shell, almost like yourself, as I mentioned. Six is start using these analytical tools. Use tools like, Tableau and Power BI to create the visual representations. Apply trend analysis techniques. You can do a quick Google and learn. It's a great skill to learn to identify patterns and like changes over the past few years for this for particular competitors that you're researching. Step seven is basically a good hygiene, good practice. Like, this is competitive research that you will need to really kind of double down and kind of like back up and make sure what you're presenting, every data point that you share is validated. So this is kind of like we'll say a safety step, number seven. And then you move on to number eight, and then this is kind of we'll say packaging together. You now have your data. You're now ready. You're kind of getting confident in the data and the overall answering the overall question from a quantitative point of view. Number eight will bring you into the qualitative view of, like, this is what could potentially impact market changes in the next few years. So it's like a forward-looking thing. It's like, you've got everything you need from a data perspective and a historical perspective. This is where you share your recommendations to the right person of, like, this is how it could go for this competitor, depending on market trends and stuff like that. So you're looking at a recommendation, a future kind of point of view, which is, I know the whole question is in the past, but the executive to who you're presenting this to needs to know how this competitor is shaped to be in the future too. Again, number nine and 10 can all be produced in the final report, which is, visualize, put together the report in number nine, make sure it's not too complicated, because with a lot of data, obviously it can always get complicated, but test your graphs and make sure everyone understands what you're trying to say. And then number 10 is you deliver your recommendations and you deliver your report. And again, this is a look back kind of exercise and competitive research, but essentially what the executive is wondering is, like, how this competitor is trending. So the trends go on until the future too. So make sure that you include some future look on this. That's how I've always answered the question, how competitors' market shares have changed over the past few years and how they look into the future, essentially. So this is a complex one, I'm not going to lie. It's very data heavy. I won't give you my best practices. They're in all my other videos, and I've done a separate video on how to kind of do your first competitive analysis, and these six kind of things outline what to expect so you won't be blindsided. But in general, you can download my free process checklist in the description below. That will include basically a step-by-step, way more detail than this, of how to complete this analysis. And then if you ever need competitive intelligence as a service, as a once-off or as a recurring service, that's what my expertise is in. I love doing any competitive and market insights and market strategy work. So please don't hesitate to set up a free call or email me at hello@finbarr.co. Hope you found this useful, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks very much.